Hi lovelies, and in this video we're going to be talking about how to create more of the reality that you would love to have. Basically, manifestation, which is basically what the topic that I'm going to be talking about in this video, is one of my favorite topics. And you know, we all have the ability to manifest, to create the reality that you know that we would love to have, that we desire. But in fact, we are constantly co-creating our reality through the medium of our thoughts and our feelings. What we need to realize is we have many thoughts every day. We have, well, they reckon the average person has between 50 to 70,000 thoughts per day, which is a phenomenal amount. So obviously the next question is, are they more positive or are they more negative by nature? And I think that if we really look at our thoughts and we become very aware of them, you know, we'll realize that they're probably quite negative, really. So science is very aware of the fact that we emanate a kind of an electromagnetic energy through our thoughts and our feelings. Our thoughts are very powerful, but our feelings are hundreds of times more so in terms of energy. Now, this electromagnetic energy is the same energy that kind of surrounds the earth and runs through the earth. It is you know, electromagnetic by nature, and this is an energy that they have been monitoring and collecting data on for a long time now. What they noticed in September 11/11 was when we had the terrorist attacks, was that there were some peaks and anomalies in the data. They didn't actually know what it was at the time. They didn't understand it when they were, you know, the researchers that were kind of monitoring the Earth's force field. But they noticed around that time there was these peaks in the energies, in the Earth's energies. So they overlaid a calendar and they realised that it corresponded to the kind of 50 minutes after the first Twin Tower attack, when we had the terrorist attack in New York. And obviously it corresponded to when there was the kind of media coverage of the attack. So what they concluded was that, you know, globally, worldwide, people were watching the news and the broadcasts and feeling, you know, saddened and anger and fear very strongly. Because I remember I was in Brussels at the time when that happened. You know, and to the point where, because so many people were watching and feeling things for the victims, it actually impacted on the Earth's force field. Now, this is really, it always gives me goosebumps when I think about it, but it was a huge discovery and a huge connection for them to make, to realise that whatever's going on internally for us is mirrored in our outer world. So basically our thoughts and our feelings impact on our physical reality. Now this is, you know, as I said, this is a huge discovery, and this was something that the ancients were very aware of. The ancient Essenes, that civilization, were very aware of it, and they always talk about the mirror effect of what's going on internally is reflected externally around us in our immediate environment. And another example of this sort of type of research was the Middle East Peace Project. So in the early 80s, there was the Lebanese-Israeli war, and researchers were kind of interested in this sort of idea of our thoughts and feelings impacting on our environment. So what they did was they got a group of people and they trained these group of people to embody the feeling of peace. So it's not just thinking and praying for peace. It was actually embodying the feelings that they felt at peace within themselves. And they asked these group of people to kind of embody this feeling at specific times of the day and on the same days of the week. And they placed these people around the war-torn areas. And so they asked them to do this, and what they found was a direct correlation between the feelings that they felt at peace within themselves and the emotions that they experienced. And so they asked them to do this, and what they found was a direct correlation between the feelings that they felt at peace within themselves and the emotions that they experienced. And so they asked them to do this, and what they found was a direct correlation between this window of time when they were bringing in this feeling into their bodies and a drop, a real drop in crime rates, in A&E visits, in traffic accidents, in terrorist activities. And when this window of time stopped, the statistics started to reverse. So again, researchers were able to prove that there is a complete connection and correlation between how we are feeling internally and what's going on in our immediate environment. And they're also able to kind of pinpoint how many people were needed to have an effect on the environment. So they felt that, for example, in a city of about 1 million people, that about 100 people, only a low number were needed. So just about 100 people. So proportionally, there's not a lot really, is it? So basically that means to me, and this is what these researchers were concluding and scientists are concluding, is that we have to be very aware of how we're thinking and feeling at any given moment, because we know that not only is it impacting on our bodies, but it's impacting on everybody else around us. And that also it's shaping and what we call co-creating our reality. Now this brings me to the concept of the law of attraction, which I'm sure a lot of you that are listening to and watching this video have heard of before. The law of attraction is a bit like the law of gravity in that it just simply is, it exists, and it's the same for everybody, whether you are someone who's essentially good or someone who's not always good or well-intentioned towards others. It doesn't matter. It's how you're thinking and feeling, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever time of day it is, or whether you're on holiday or whatever you are thinking and feeling will be impacting on your reality. It's the same for everybody, okay? And I like to see us as a big magnet. So whatever we're choosing to focus our thoughts on, whether they are more of a negative focus or a positive focus, we're just simply attracting more of the same. So, if you're someone who is more heart-centered, in their heart, and feeling more unconditional love, more compassion, and love is of such a high frequency, such a high vibration, then you're going to be pulling in more positive circumstances and situations for yourself. Whereas if you're more of a worrier and anxious and tend to be more, have more dense thoughts and feelings, then you're going to be attracting more negative circumstances to yourself. So that's basically how it works. And as I said, we have to be really, really mindful of our thoughts and our feelings at any given point, because we know now, as I know, that they're directly impacting on everybody around me. And even if they're not around me physically, if I'm having a negative thought towards someone, wherever they may be, I know that it will be impacting on them. And it's true that we often think, don't we, of the worst case scenario, especially when we're worrying about something. We think we have such powerful imagination, so we often think of the worst case scenario without really thinking about what we're doing, being conscious of it. And again, that in turn will be attracting more of the same. So it becomes very difficult though, because you could just say, well, okay, I'm just going to change my thoughts. Great. You've got your waking conscious thoughts, which make up about 10% of the totality of your thoughts. And yes, absolutely, you could focus on changing them and becoming more positive. But don't forget, you've got 90% of those thoughts are subconscious, and these are the ones that are very tricky. It becomes very, very tricky to change because we're not aware of them. These are the thoughts that come through in our dream state, and these are the thoughts that drive our beliefs and our decisions and our actions and our words. So it does become exceptionally difficult to change. But the good news is that I have some tips and specific techniques to start to help with this and to start helping with your manifestation. So in other words, co-creating more the reality that you would desire, that you would like to have. So So we have to take into account these subconscious thoughts, and that we have only 10% of our waking thoughts that we can kind of start to change. But do you remember what I said, that our thoughts are very powerful, but our feelings are even more so? So in my tips, in my steps for manifestation, I'm going to be talking about this. But my first tip, my number one tip, is to start to be aware of how we're thinking and feeling at any given time. And what you could simply do to start to connect more to your emotions, so i.e. your thoughts and your feelings, is to simply write a list. Write a list of the main ones. You'll probably find you have 2 or 3 things that you tend to focus on and worry about, that comes up for you regularly. I know I do, and I've definitely identified them. I'm very aware of them. But this might be something you could do. Just start to write down a list of those more troublesome thoughts. And what they do reckon is that about 90%, again, of the thoughts that we have, and this is probably because they're more ingrained in us, so the thoughts that we have on a daily basis are the same as the thoughts the day before that, the day before that. So again, it makes it very difficult for change and transformation. And this is because I believe these are our subconscious thoughts that we're not really aware of. They're kind of bubbling away below the surface. What I like to think of is an iceberg. So the 10% that you see above the water are your waking conscious thoughts that you can do something quite easily about if you're on it. 90% that's below the water you don't see. They're our subconscious thoughts. So tip number one, be very aware. Another thing that you can do, and I talk a lot about, is to do some sort of centering activity. Come back to alignment, come back to your true self, your higher self, your spirit self, however you like to call it. But just take that time when you feel yourself struggling. Just remove yourself from the situation. Go and sit somewhere quietly, close your eyes, and just set the intent to come back to your heart. Just even by doing that, bringing your focus down into your heart and just feeling love will allow you to come into that first chamber of the heart and to feel more love for people already, okay? And that's just going to change things and shift things slightly for you, and that's going to really help and just make you a bit more aware of your thoughts and feelings. So try that. Step number 2, or tip number 2, is be specific. Just really pinpoint what it is you want. What is it you want, for yourself? Is it more health? Is it more energy and vitality and a sense of well-being? Is it more commitment in your relationships, more intimacy in your relationships, more love and support in your relationships? Is it something material? Is it a new car that you would love to have? What color is it? What type of car is it? Is it a more, a job that you resonate more with, okay? Or just finding out what sort of job you'd love to do. Some of us don't even know, do we? I was very much like that. I didn't know who I was, didn't know what sort of job I really wanted to be doing, what I resonated with, any of those things. But just sit down and really pinpoint what it is you would like more of in your life right now. Okay, now with those goals, when we think of goals, and because if you're new to manifesting, be realistic, come up with a realistic goal, an achievable goal. If you sit there thinking, well, I'd like £1 million before Christmas, that's probably not it wouldn't be very realistic for me. I'd love it, wouldn't it be nice, but it wouldn't be realistic. So, just think of something that's more realistic for you. You could also think of a time scale, maybe by Christmas or by summer of next year, or whatever it is, but within those realistic boundaries. I'd write it down and be really succinct as well with it, because sometimes we can kind of lose ourselves in the detail. The universe likes simplicity, or that's how I feel that it does. So, I have a goal that I write down as often as possible, as often as I think of it, and I just write it down, and it's super simple to do that. You could also think about how you're going to achieve it. Now, I wouldn't get too caught up in this, I'm saying it, but I wouldn't get too caught up in it, because this can stop the flow of manifestation. Because I know what I'm like. If I start to think, okay, how am I going to do this? And then it brings up a bit of a worry, and I'm thinking, am I doing it the right way? And I stop being intuitive about it and getting that divine inspiration. So try not to get too caught up in it, but you could have a little think about, or try and get inspiration on how you're going to do that. So you could think about the what, the by when, the how, and also the why. What is that going to give you? Have a think about it. What will that give you? And that will help with the process of manifestation, which brings me nicely to step number 3, is that you have to feel and think, but mainly feel, that what it is you want has already occurred in your life. It's already there. Okay, and it's very specific. There's a very specific reason for this, and that our feelings, remember, are so much more powerful than our thoughts. So if we're already bringing in that feeling that the situation is already resolved, that we have more health, that we have more vitality, we have more energy, that we have more love and support in our relationships, even though you haven't, you have to feel as though it's already there, already with you. And this is what a lot of my clients struggle with, and what I just totally didn't get initially. It's that every time you think about your goal, or you find yourself worrying about what it is you want to transform in your life, you immediately bring in that feeling that it's already there, that it's already resolved. And by thinking about why you want that, that will help you with that feeling, bringing in that feeling, and just do it as much as you can. You just simply focus on that feeling, nothing else. And that is very, very powerful if you're doing that regularly, every day, every moment you think about it. So step number 4 is using manifestation anchors. Now, I love these. This is a phrase that was coined by Denise Duffield Thomas in her Lucky Bitch. She has her website called Lucky Bitch, but she's all about manifesting and money blocks, and but the process that she talks about and explains so wonderfully can be applied to anything. It can be applied to health, it can be applied to relationships. Don't forget, it's not just about money and actual physical things, but she talks very much and uses very much manifestation anchors. She's got tons of ideas. So she talks about the visuals. So, have your goal in your purse. Every time you open your purse, you've got your goal, you read it. Have vision boards where you have these powerful images of your goal and what it would look like to you if it was already there, if it was all, for you. You could use little bracelets to remind you of your goal, because you're seeing it every time. You could have notifications set up in your phone, couldn't you? 3 or 4 times a day, congratulating you on the fact that you've achieved your goal. Although you haven't yet, but it just helps you to be mindful of it. If you're looking for the car, then go and test drive one. If you're looking for the designer shoes, go and try them on. And all of this, remember, will help you to bring in that feeling of what it would feel like if you already had that in your life, if it had already happened or already occurred for you. Okay, I journal. I have a journal by my bed, little notebook by my bed, and a pen, and I write down my goal, and I thank, I do gratitude journaling. So I think about all the lovely things that have happened to me today, and I write them down. I'll talk a little bit more about that in my step 6, but I also write down my goal when I remember to. Really, I want to be writing it down about two times a day. Don't always do it, but I think it's a very important part of manifesting. So if you can do it. It will really help. So that's on manifestation anchors. That's step 4. Step 5 is how to take inspired action, or remembering to take inspired action, which I touched a bit on earlier. Now, again, inspiration is something that we all have, but a lot of us don't choose to listen to it, and yet it's the most natural and powerful tool that we all have available to us. Inspired action is when, this is how I experience it, is when we put out to the universe what it is we want, so our goal, and the universe says, well, okay, in order for you to get that goal, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that, etc. So you will have these thoughts, these ideas that seemingly random that will pop into your head. That is your inspired action. That's your inspiration talking to you. That's the language of the universe. So you have to act upon it, don't you? You can't just sit back and expect things to happen. You need to act upon them. And this is what I mean by inspired action. Now, if it feels right and it feels exciting, then you can really, be assured that it is your inspiration that's talking to you, and just go ahead and do them. But just be aware that when we set our intent for a goal, you will get the blocks that come up. Because if we didn't have those blocks, you would have already achieved it, right? So you've got that to go through as well. You've got your good old ego that's telling you you're not worth it, or you don't deserve it, or whatever it is, coming up for you, or the fact that it's not working, it's loaded codswallop, or whatever it is. These are your blocks, these are your fear blocks, okay, just coming up to stop you, self-sabotage. So just be aware of that as well, okay? And step 6, my last step is gratitude. Just be grateful to the universe. So important, because you're going to be getting help and support. You'll be getting that loving support from the universe. They'll be setting up situations. They'll be, it'll be giving you ideas coming through, popping into your head, or you'll be hearing something on the telly or the radio, or someone will say something to you that really resonates with you to help with your goal. Be grateful for anything that comes along your way. And it feels so miraculous and so magical when you recognize it for what it is, because you're putting out there what you want, and then something will happen. Recognize it and be grateful, be thankful, because that's the universe helping you, and also yourself. You're doing these things. You're taking that inspired action. You're writing down those goals. You're remaining focused on the goals and bringing in the feeling that it's already occurred for you. So, all of this requires effort. It requires commitment on your part. So be grateful to yourself for that as well, because, you're actioning it and you're creating it.